If you've ever been stuck between having great ideas and getting real results, this is for you. The thought of doing it all overwhelms you, but the thought of not doing it haunts you. The problem isn't your talent, it's your tempo. You're playing at the extremes. The greats in basketball, music, and in business all find their rhythm in between. That's what I call the mid-range. It's where you build consistency, communicate with clarity, and create with confidence. When you learn to master the mid-range, you stop reacting to the game and start running it. In this video, I'll break down how I developed this entire concept and how you can apply it to your businesses. And if you make it to the end, I also have an exclusive offer available for you. Let's get to the point. I'm Derek, the Marketing Point Guard, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm a sports marketing consultant that helps athletes and entrepreneurs win off the court. Typically, we look at the weekly headlines and pull insights to help you build your brand. But today, I want to take a step back and look at the even bigger picture and talk to you guys about something I've been brainstorming and workshopping for the last couple of months. That is the overall strategy in condensing my entire creative approach in business and marketing experience into a simple formula. Now, before we get into that, just want to give you guys a little bit of background on how I've developed all of this. So honestly, I've been obsessing with the mid-range for a long time now. And even when I look back at my playing days, it was something that I had to execute, right? I played, I'm 5'8.5", right? So I'm not the biggest player, but I was able to play some high-level basketball, and to be able to operate against bigger players and smaller spaces, the mid-range was my go-to shot, right? Like, I could get all the way to the rim and finish a little bit, but just pulling up mid-range was my go-to shot. It's how I was able to carve out a career, score 1,000 points in college, and it just helped me navigate the floor and see the game at a different level. And so once I got into the professional field, so you're always looking as an athlete, right? You're looking for that thing that gives you that same feeling, right? Like, there's nothing like hitting a game-winning shot, hitting a big jumper and the crowd going wild. Even the reps, like shooting 1,000 jump shots a day, like that's something that you kind of miss. And so, like I always say, like my goal is to keep the hoop dreams alive. So I knew I had to work in sports somehow and stay connected to the game, keep that competitive energy, keep that focus. And as I've, built my career over a long time now, you start to, again, see, when you look back, you see these connective threads. You see this red thread that's running through everything. And for me, that is the mid-range, right? That is when typically, right, you see in all these spaces, we get distracted by the extremes of everything a lot, right? If you're a creator, you want to go viral, right? You want to get massive views. You want to post every single day. That's the goal. But sometimes the weight of that is too heavy, right, to even start and even see the finish line. So it may beat you into submission. You don't even start. In basketball, you have the analytics era that we're currently in. Everybody wants to shoot threes or get to the rim and free throws. It makes the game a little boring. It's a little homogenous. All the teams start to look the same, play the same. It's not as fun. And then even if we start to look at other sectors, right? All the places I frequent, music, are you making the hit? Is it catchy? Is it melodic? Can people sing and dance to it? Or is it deep? Do you have a meaning? What message are you trying to tell, right? Like, they seem to be diametrically opposed. And even in communication through marketing materials and branding, you get the two extremes. You want something that's super clean, that looks great, and then you got your the technical people, they want to describe all the details so everybody knows the value. Both those things don't work. But what does work is the middle, the mid-range. That is where the mastery lives, right? And it's funny when you start to take a step back again and see, you start to realize how this shows up in various different formats. And obviously the first one is basketball. I kind of talked about how I played, but not to try to elevate myself to the same level as these greats, but the greats all use the mid-range, right? Like Jordan perfected the mid-range jumper, the fadeaway, right? Getting to that spot. It was automatic. He knew he could get to his spot there and score at any time. And recently, LeBron James and Steve Nash's Mind the Podcast, Steve Nash and LeBron James Mind the Game podcast, they had a conversation with Kevin Durant about the mid-range, right? And they tackled this issue head on. And when you see the game and how it's shifting, and again, all the analytics are saying, shoot more threes, we got to get up X amount of threes, this many possessions, speed up, shoot quicker, get to the cup, get the easiest shot available, quickest shot available. But when you look at the stars, they don't play like that. Kevin Durant is a killer in the mid-range. He could probably average 40 points and score 60, 70 a game if he shot more threes. But the art and the mastery is in the mid-range. Look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He is on one of the most impressive guard runs in NBA history. He is a mid-range assassin. You could spray it out to role players and everybody else to shoot the threes and shoot the layups and the dunks, put them in the dunker spots, give them alley-oops, they get free throws. But as the star and the leader, you have to shoot the mid-range, because now all defenses are catered to taking away those things, right? So the people who can only shoot and only drive, they kind of get weeded out. And the cream rise of the crop are the people who know how to navigate and master the mid-range. So it is imperative in basketball, if you want to win at a high level, to understand the mid-range. And that's not the only place. Another area where I really started to see, surprisingly, the mid-range is in music, right? And it's not a place you really think about as far as ranges. But like I mentioned up front, right, you get kind of caught up between the extremes and almost kind of labeling each other. And this one I got from Punch, TDE president. He was talking to Curtis King on a podcast, and he was talking about his approach to music. And now, say what you want about TDE, but they know what they're doing over there in developing artists and creating hits, right? Like, they pressure cook their artists in a way that is anti to this kind of overconsumption culture we have now. Like, give me more, release. I need all in any forms of content that you have. That is not their approach, right? They are a lot more selective, and when we get their final products, they feel so cohesive and they feel rich, and they're also still enjoyable. And that is not by accident, right? And he let us inside with his insight about the mid-range in music. And it's similar to basketball, right? Like, we used to call them mumble rappers, like, and I felt like that was a dig on the South, but we're not going to get into that right now. But, people who made more of like the melodic, think like early Young Thug, right? Where you may not have understood everything that he was saying, but it just sounded and felt good, right? They kind of got put into a box and almost critiqued by these like super deep battle rapper, metaphor, simile, just like wordplay, rap tacticians, right? And these guys were kind of over here as like the rap purists looking down on the mumble rappers. But in reality, they're one and the same, because nobody understood either of them, right? Like, and it's funny to think about, is like, you think you're being so deep and intricate, but the point is to communicate, right? And if they're being so melodic and it's entertaining, but I don't understand what they're saying, like, they're both missing the mark. And that is where the mid-range comes into play in music. And not just music, but just in communication, right? So you have artists like a Kendrick Lamar, right, who has been trained and coached under Top Dog and coached under Punch to develop this specific type of communication through music in this case. And it's special, right? Because then you could have something that is so deep and has meaning, but it's relatable, it's catchy, it's something you can replay on the radio, right? You don't want to just make music to like thesis people down. It has to be enjoyable, right? If you're in the music art form. So the people who do the melodic stuff but lack the message are kind of criticized for not having the heart of hip hop. And the people that do it so intently and so technically but don't really connect with people are losing the point too. So you got to find that mid-range, right? And there's no surprise when you look at the rap category for album of the year, the people who master the mid-range are also nominated for album of the year, and that's Kendrick Lamar and the Clips, right? Clips' album is full of mid-range raps. Like Pusha T and Malice are effective in being able to communicate complex things simply, right? They're able to punch you with punchlines, but also hit you with meaning. And they're not overcomplicated. They're not double timing. They're not spitting too many words and rapping over the beat. Like, it is in the pocket, right? That is a special pocket. So if you can master the mid-range in music, you'll achieve success, right? You'll number one albums, Grammy nominations, selling out tours, right? You get to the results when you know the mid-range. It's where the mastery is, right? So now we got it in basketball, we got it in music, but it doesn't stop there, right? When I think about the mid-range in business and in marketing, you think about companies like Nike, Apple, Gatorade. You know, they distill complex things into very digestible formats. And, you know, we all know the famous Just Do It, right? Like, Just Do It is mid-range to the T, right? It is taking the ethos of an athlete, right? The mentality of determination, of grit, of trying to achieve, and distilling it into 3 words that connect universally, right? And it connects back to everybody's an athlete. Anybody can relate to just trying to accomplish something. Not everybody can relate to the deep technology in the shoe that allows you to do it, or the tech in the shirts that allow your sweat to disappear as you run, or whatever latest innovation they're coming up with. But they're able to distill all of that by pairing their powerful tech with amazing athletes through a clean messaging, which is Just Do It, right? And that is what makes that so special. Gatorade does the same thing. Is it in you, right? Very simple 4-word campaign that asks the question, you know, are you giving your body the fuel that you need to perform at its peak level? Now, if they said all that in the copy, you'd be like, whatever. What are they talking about? What is fuel? Now, is it in you? In the imagery they pair with it, in the sweat being Gatorade coming out of you, because what's in you eventually comes out, they're tying their product with determination, with resolve, with passion, with hard work. All of those things summed up in 4 letters and communicated in conjunction with, you know, beautiful campaigns and imagery. But the imagery alone doesn't do it at first, right? Over time, now Gatorade is at a position where they can just post the beaded sweat and we get it. But to start, you got to pair those images and words together, gets it done. If they just put out a pamphlet, here's all the health benefits that come along with drinking Gatorade, and how we refuel athletes, and how we telling this very intricate, nerdy story, we wouldn't accept that. We'd be like, all right, whatever, who cares? You got to be able to meet people where they are, and that's what the mid-range is. And Apple, I think, does this. They're the best. They're goated in this, and more so the Steve Jobs era and how he was able to just think different, right? Like, that campaign is one of the greatest of all time in pairing Apple products with great leaders, great thinkers like a Muhammad Ali. And, you know, what does Muhammad Ali have to do with computers? He doesn't. But by associating their brand with people who think different and who have achieved at a high level, you start to create that brand connection, right? And there's so much technology in our phones, Apple Watch if you got it, you know, our MacBooks, everything we have is so dense with technology, right? Like, they were able to turn those huge brick phones into these sleek smartphones. But they don't have to sell you, they're not selling us on all those features, right? They're just telling you new, improved, clean. Like, Apple leads with a bold feature call out that resonates with a personal frustration or struggle and how they can help solve it. Like, that is mid-range. That is getting to the point. That is not focusing on all the fluff. It's being able to understand what the pain point is and to speak to that. And that's really what the mid-range is all about, right? You see how it shows up in all of these different facets of life, in career, in industry, right? And you may be thinking, oh yeah, this is cool. I like how you made those connections, but like, how does that affect me? You have something you want to communicate. You have something that you want to share. You have to know who you are speaking to and be able to develop your messaging in your campaign or whatever you're about to roll out to speak to that person, and not just speak so broadly or speak way too technically to the point that they don't understand you. So that is the mid-range. Like I said, I've been obsessing with this intently for the last couple of months, but in doing so, realizing that this has been what I've always cared about in my entire life, from my playing days to my professional career. So that is the mid-range. It's a personal branding and marketing approach for me, but I believe it could help all. And now that you've made it to the end, I'd love to hear from you. You know, if you made it this far, I'd love to hear what you're working on, what you got going on, and find a way for us to work together. So I'm opening up my books for the next month to book some one-on-one discovery calls to hear from you directly. And if you think that if you resonated with this and how this level of thinking, but are unsure how it could be applied to your business or your expertise, like, let's talk about it. I love hearing what everybody's working on, and then, you know, finding ways to win. Like, as the marketing point guard, I'm here to drop dimes and give you assists and help you run winning plays. So that is the goal. I appreciate you if you made it this far. Like I said, this is something I'm really passionate about and have been working on for a while. So starting to roll it out. If you see stuff on social media, engage with it. Sign up for the newsletter. You know, I break down these principles weekly through campaign case studies and happenings real time in culture. So tap in with me. Again, thank you for making it this far. Trying to grow the channel. So like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.